We left for Saratoga Springs at 3 p.m. on Friday, October 29th, headed for the Baltimore-Washington Airport and our headquarters, Sanity, the Sheraton Four Points. The ride was beautiful at first. Beautiful New York, and even beautiful New Jersey. We had a nice, easy trip, and we had some equipment. A trusty radar detector, 2 cell phones and a rubber salamander, and our TomTom GPS, our trip navigator, invaluable as it turns out these days. Everything was going perfectly until we hit I-95 in Maryland, and 7 lanes went down to 3, and then they narrowed down to 1. What a nightmare. But we finally reached the Sheraton Four Points, got up early the next morning, and went to New Carlton, where we took the metro, and the metro then delivered us to the Smithsonian Station at the mall. And as we walked up, this is what we saw. Clearly the crowd was forming. It was about 10:45 in the morning, and we couldn't see the stage from where we were. So we pressed forward until well, you'll see in a minute. As we walked, we saw a lot of people, some in costumes, some dressed up, some carrying signs. But things got pretty desperate as we started to get near the stage. The crowd got heavier and heavier. Pretty soon, we couldn't really move at all, but we could see the stage suddenly as we looked up. We were about maybe 100 yards away, but there was literally no place to sit down. And we looked and looked and looked, and there was just not 1 inch of real estate where somebody was not standing. So Gene and I were really just couldn't figure out what we were going to do, and we're loud. And suddenly, he says, "Do you see what that kid has on?" And there he was, a kid with a Croton sweatshirt. And so we went over and asked him, and he said, "Well, ask my dad." And his dad said, "Yeah, you can take up 2 inches of space right here on our blanket." So there we were, we had a space, and now there was 1 minute to go till showtime. What you need to know is that we talked to the people, and they told us that they had gotten there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were there at 11. So we had really been fortunate to find people who would allow us to sit on their space. So now you could feel the pace, and notice how everybody is standing up. And that was one of the hardest things to imagine, is that people were going to stand for almost 5 or 6 hours. And so the crowd was getting in a frenzy as the show was about to begin. Nobody knew what to expect. Nobody knew who the performers were going to be. And the first group was introduced, and it was Roots, who kind of provided the musical background for most of the show. And this is just a shot showing back toward the Washington Monument. And Roots just finished their act. And here it goes to the Mythbusters.
Take up a little time doing some experiments with you first. Is that okay? You guys want to be our world's largest sample size?
Only the women in the crowd should be propagating that way. So do you have that, men? Sit this one out. Okay. Here we go, ladies.
On your mark. Get set, ladies, and wave!
Excellent. Keep going. Down they go.
Now this will give you some idea of the size of the audience. because we were in the top quarter. That took about 12 seconds for the wave to get to us. And now the wave is still going back. And I'm going to pan over and you can see how deep the audience goes. So we were in the top 25% because the wave is still going. And the wave goes all the way back.
This is just what it's like filming our show. It's a lot of waiting around. And done! 56 seconds!
Will present our rally to restore sanity and order. And now, please welcome your host, Jon Stewart!
And as you know, the show went on from there. It lasted about 2 hours from now on. And I think we really enjoyed it. And this once-in-a-lifetime experience is one that Gene and I both agree that if you asked us to go back and do it over again, we'd do it in a heartbeat. We had a terrific time. Hope you enjoyed seeing the video.
Welcome, welcome, welcome!